The pounding woke me up right at midnight. It was not a soft knock. It was not a normal call. They were desperate punches against the solid wood of my front door, as if someone wanted to tear it down with the fury of a caged animal. I sat up in bed. My heart was beating so fast I could feel the pulse in my temples. I had spent my whole life being a quiet man, a man who solved things with words, with patience. But that night, something inside me already knew that words were not going to be of any use. I heard my daughter-in-law screaming my name completely out of her mind. "William, open this damn door right now!" Her voice sounded like a woman on the verge of collapse, hysterical, rabid. She had never spoken to me like that, at least not with that level of contempt. I had changed all the locks recently after what happened, after I discovered what they had been planning behind my back for months. I stood up slowly. My knees hurt a little, as they always do at this hour. 72 years do not pass in vain, although I still feel strong. Strong in the mind, which is what really matters. Shortly after, I heard my son's voice. "This time, I'm coming in, whether you like it or not." And then came the first metallic crash. A brutal, dry sound, as if someone were attacking the door with something heavy. A sledgehammer. My own son had brought a sledgehammer to my house. To the house that I built with my own hands, with my sweat, with 40 years of honest work. I remained silent, not out of fear, not because I did not know what to do, but because I wanted them to feel the weight of that moment. I wanted every second of silence to remind them of who they were and what they were doing. Then, behind me, a calm voice was heard saying, "Let them be. I will get it." I turned the doorknob slowly, with all the calm in the world, and when that door opened, what they found on the other side froze their blood. My name is William Miller. I was born in a small town in the Rust Belt, where the ground is hard and the people are even harder. I arrived in Chicago when I was 17, with a backpack and a dream that seemed ridiculous to many. To build something big, something that would last. I had no education. I had no contacts. I had nothing but the will not to give up. I started washing dishes in a restaurant downtown. Then I was a construction helper, then a cargo truck driver. Every job taught me something. Every boss I had showed me how the business world worked, even if they did not know it. By the time I was 30, I already had my first fleet of trucks. 3 old units, bought with loans that I paid down to the last penny. I worked 18 hours a day, slept 4, ate when I could, but I never complained, because I knew that every sacrifice was an investment in the future. By 40, I already had 15 trucks and 2 distribution warehouses. By 50, I had expanded the business to 4 states. Freight transport, logistics, storage, nothing spectacular, nothing glamorous, but solid, profitable, respectable. I married Teresa when I was 25. She was a noble woman, the kind you do not see anymore. She gave me 2 children, Robert and Chloe. I gave them everything I never had. Private education, trips, opportunities. I taught them the value of work, or at least I tried. Teresa died 6 years ago from cancer. It was fast and painful. She was my compass, the only person who kept me centered when money started changing the people around me. When she left, something broke in the family. Or maybe what was always there just became visible. Greed. Robert, my oldest son, never wanted to work for real. He studied business administration because I asked him to. He graduated because I paid for everything. He entered my company because I opened the door for him, but he never had hunger. He never knew what it was like to wake up not knowing if you were going to eat that day or not. 3 years ago, I made him director of operations. A mistake that cost me dearly. He started arriving late, then missing work, then making decisions without consulting me. We lost 2 big contracts because of his negligence. When I confronted him, he got defensive. He told me I was a controlling old man, that I did not trust him, that I needed to let the new generation take the reins. New generation, as if respect and responsibility were things of the past. Chloe, my daughter, was different, or so I thought. She was always quieter, more reserved. She married a lawyer, James, a guy who smiled a lot but had the cold eyes of a shark. I never liked him, but Teresa convinced me to give him a chance. For years, everything seemed fine. Family gatherings, Sunday dinners, birthdays, the perfect family, or at least that is what we pretended. But after Teresa died, everything changed. Robert started pressuring me to give him more control of the company. Chloe started asking about my will, about my properties, about my investments. At first I thought it was genuine concern. I thought they wanted to make sure everything was in order for when I was no longer around. How naive I was. The truth started to reveal itself 8 months ago. It was a Friday afternoon. I had gone to one of my warehouses to check on a problem with a client. When I returned early to the main office, I heard voices in the boardroom. The door was ajar. I approached without making a sound. And then I heard Robert talking to James, Chloe's husband. He is old already, Robert was saying. He cannot make clear decisions anymore. The other day he forgot an important meeting. That is perfect, James replied with that lawyer voice that had always given me distrust. We can use that. Mental incapacity due to advanced age. With 2 well-placed medical testimonies, we can get a judge to declare that he is no longer fit to handle his own affairs. My blood ran cold. And then, Robert asked, then you and Chloe assume total control of the company and all his assets, legally, without him being able to do anything. And if he resists, he will not be able to. Once we have the declaration of incapacity, any document he signs will be void. Even if he tries to change his will or sell something, it will have no legal validity. Robert let out a laugh I will never forget. The old man asked for it, always so stubborn, always so controlling. It is time for him to rest and let us do things right. I walked away from that door, feeling like I had been punched in the stomach. My own son, my own blood, planning to steal everything I had built. Not just the money or the company, but my dignity, my freedom, my right to decide over my own life. That night I did not sleep. I sat in the study of my house, looking at photos of when they were children. Robert in his football uniform, Chloe at her high school graduation, Teresa smiling next to them. At what moment did everything go wrong? At what moment did love turn into greed? At what moment did I stop being their father to become an obstacle? I dedicated the following days to investigating. I hired a private detective. I reviewed the company bank movements. I spoke in secret with my trusted accountant, Maurice, a man who had been working with me for 30 years. What I discovered was worse than I imagined. Robert had been diverting funds from the company for the last 2 years. Small amounts at first, then larger ones, always justified as operating expenses, bonuses, or investments. But the money was going to personal accounts, to credit cards, to a condo downtown that he had bought under the name of a shell company. Chloe and James were not far behind. They had convinced Robert that if they managed to declare me incompetent, they could sell the company to a foreign corporation that had been making offers for months. A quick sale, a juicy commission, and then divide everything and live like kings without having to work another day in their lives. They did not just want to rob me. They wanted to erase me. For weeks, I acted as if I knew nothing. I kept going to the office. I kept attending meetings. I continued being old William, the trusting father, the loving grandfather, but every word that came out of their mouths hurt me like a stab wound. Robert would ask me how I was feeling, if I was sleeping well, if I was forgetting things, all with that face of fake concern. Chloe came to visit me with her children, my grandkids, and talked to me about how important it was to have everything in order, about how much they loved me, about how calm they would be if I gave them more access to my accounts in case something happened. James, that damn James, brought me documents to sign. Contracts, powers of attorney, changes in the company structure, all written in that legal language that makes anyone dizzy. It is just to protect your estate, William. he would tell me with that snake smile, so that when you are no longer here, everything is clear and there are no problems between the kids. I nodded, smiled, and signed nothing. They started to get desperate. The visits became more frequent, the comments more direct. Robert went as far as telling me he was worried about my mental health, that maybe I should see a specialist. Just to rule things out, Dad, nothing serious. It is normal at your age, normal at my age, as if being 72 automatically made me useless. So I made a decision. If they wanted to play dirty, I could too, but not with their rules, with mine. I hired the best lawyer I could find, not one of those who work for family businesses, but one of those who defend billionaires in complicated cases. I explained the whole situation to him. I showed him the proof, the emails the detective had recovered, the bank records, the recordings. Mr. Miller, he told me, you have two options. You can confront them now and risk a long and painful legal battle, or you can prepare the ground, protect your assets, and wait for the perfect moment to flip the table on them. How much time do I need? 3 months? Maybe 4? You have 2. And so my silent counterattack began. First, I restructured my entire company. I created an armored trust where I placed the majority of my assets. A trust where neither Robert nor Chloe had access, where they did not even appear as beneficiaries. Second, I changed all my wills. The previous ones were nullified. In the new ones, I made it clear that any attempt to declare me incompetent would result in automatic exclusion from the inheritance. Third, I gathered all the evidence of Robert's embezzlement and presented it to the board of directors. Not publicly, not yet. But I left them there, ready to be used at the right moment. Fourth, and this was the most important, I changed all the locks on my house, because I knew that when they realized what I had done, they would come. And they would come with everything. The night everything exploded was 2 weeks ago. I had summoned Robert and Chloe to my house for a family dinner. I told them I wanted to talk about the future of the company, about my retirement plans. They arrived on time. Robert with his expensive suit and his $10,000 watch. Chloe with her designer dress and that smile that no longer fooled me. We had dinner. We talked about trivial things, the weather, the grandkids, the food. And when we finished dessert, I took out a manila envelope. I want to show you something, I said calmly. Robert opened it. His face changed color when he saw the documents, the account statements, the emails, the bank transfers. What is this? He asked with a trembling voice. Evidence, I replied. Evidence that for 2 years you have been stealing from me. Chloe turned pale. Dad, You too, I interrupted her. You and your husband, all of you. You thought I was a foolish old man who wouldn't notice. You thought you could take everything I built and that I would stay silent. Robert stood up abruptly. His chair fell backward. This is a lie. Someone is manipulating you. Sit down, I ordered him. He did not sit. Who was it? Maurice? Did that shitty accountant fill your head with ideas? Nobody filled my head with anything. I just opened my eyes. Chloe started to cry. Fake tears. The same tears she used as a child when she wanted to get her way. Dad, please, we can fix this. It was a mistake. Robert was under a lot of pressure. Just what? Just planned to declare me crazy to steal my company? Just we're going to sell it and leave me with nothing? The silence that followed was devastating. Robert was breathing with fury. Chloe was sobbing. I looked at them with a mixture of sadness and disgust that I never thought I would feel toward my own children. I want you to leave my house, I said finally, and I do not want to see you again until you are ready to face the consequences of what you did. Consequences? Robert let out a bitter laugh. Are you threatening me? No, I am giving you a chance you do not deserve. They left, slamming the door, Chloe crying, Robert shouting threats, and I stayed alone in that huge house feeling the weight of 72 years on my shoulders. The following days were of a tense silence. Robert tried calling me. I blocked his number. Chloe sent me messages. I ignored them. James, the very cynical man, sent me a formal email requesting a meeting to clarify misunderstandings. I deleted it without replying, but I knew it was not going to end there. I knew Robert. I knew his temper, and I knew that when he felt cornered, he would do something drastic. That is why I hired private security, 2 discreet guards who watched my house 24 hours a day. That is why I installed cameras at all entrances. That is why I changed the locks on all doors. And that is why, when I heard those knocks at midnight, I knew exactly who it was. But I was not alone. 2 weeks before, after the disastrous dinner, I had called my old friend August, a man I had known since my days as a construction worker, a man who had grown up with me, who had built his own real estate empire, a man I could trust. I told him everything, every detail, every betrayal. William, he told me, you need legal protection, but you also need witnesses, people who can testify that you are in full use of your faculties. What do you suggest? Let me stay with you for a few days, and I will bring my lawyer too. If your children try anything, they will have to do it in front of witnesses. And that is what we did. August settled into the guest room. His lawyer, Mr. Vance, did too. 2 trustworthy men who could testify to everything that happened. That is why, when I heard the calm voice behind me that night, I knew I was not alone. Let them be. I will get it, August said. And when I turned the doorknob and the door opened, Robert and his wife found themselves not only with me, but with 3 men looking at them with absolute calm. August, Mr. Vance, and the head of security I had hired. Robert was still holding the sledgehammer. His wife, Danielle, my daughter-in-law, was red with rage. "What the hell?" Robert stammered. "Good evening," said Mr. Vance with a professional smile. "I am Mr. Miller's lawyer, and you have just committed several crimes. Damage to private property, trespassing, attempted intimidation, all recorded on video and with multiple witnesses." The sledgehammer fell to the ground with a metallic sound. Danielle started to back away. We just wanted to talk." At midnight, with a demolition tool, I said, looking my son in the eye, "Is that what I am to you now? An obstacle that needs to be torn down?" Robert did not answer, and in that moment I knew there was no turning back. Robert stood there like a statue of salt, the sledgehammer at his feet, his hands still trembling, and in his eyes I saw something I never thought I would see in my own son. Pure hatred. No regret, no shame. Hatred. "Dad," he said finally, and his voice sounded strangely calm. "This did not have to be like this." "You are right," I replied. "It did not have to be like this. But you chose it." Danielle, my daughter-in-law, took a step forward. She had always been the more impulsive of the 2, a pretty woman on the outside, but with a rotten heart on the inside. From the day Robert brought her home, I knew that woman only saw dollar signs in his eyes. "You know what?" She spat the words with venom. "I am tired of this charade. We are tired. You with your saint attitude. As if you were the only one who worked hard in this family. As if Robert had not dedicated years of his life to your company." Years of his life, I let out a bitter laugh. Robert arrived at 11 in the morning and left at 3 in the afternoon. Robert lost contracts because he preferred to be on the golf course than attending to clients. Robert stole money from the company that I built. That is a lie. There are account statements that say otherwise. August crossed his arms, watching the scene with the tranquility of someone who has seen this thousands of times. Mr. Vance was taking notes in a small notebook. The head of security remained near the door, ready to intervene if the situation turned violent. "Robert," August said with a firm voice, "I suggest you leave right now, before this turns into something you cannot fix." "Who do you think you are?" Robert replied with contempt. "This is a family matter." "I am a witness," August replied, "and I am also the man who's going to make sure your father does not end up in a nursing home, because you and your sister decided he is no longer useful to you." Robert's face turned red. "Is that what he told you? That we want to put him in a nursing home?" "No," I intervened. "It is what the documents you prepared told me. A declaration of mental incapacity. 2 bought doctors, a legal process to take control of everything I have. Danielle opened her mouth to say something but stopped. She knew we were treading on dangerous ground, ground where every word could be used against her. "This is not going to stay like this," Robert said finally, pointing his finger at me. "I am going to fight this. I am going to prove that you are senile, that you are not thinking clearly anymore, that you are a danger to yourself. Try it," I told him, "but do it knowing that every step you take against me will be documented. Every lie you tell will be refuted. Every false witness you bring will be exposed." Robert picked up the sledgehammer from the ground. For a moment I thought he was going to do something stupid, but Danielle took him by the arm. "Let's go," she whispered. "It is not worth it." They left, walking toward their luxury SUV. An SUV that I had given Robert 2 years ago for his birthday. An SUV that he probably paid for with the money he stole from me. When the taillights disappeared into the darkness, I let out a sigh I had been holding since I opened the door. "That was close," said the head of security. "This is just beginning," replied Mr. Vance. "Mr. Miller, we need to talk about the next steps." We sat in the living room. August made coffee. At 2 in the morning, drinking coffee and planning a legal war against my own son. What irony. "They are going to attack on several fronts," Vance explained. "First, they will try the issue of mental incapacity. They will bring doctors to declare that you suffer from dementia, or Alzheimer's, or whatever sounds convincing. But I am perfectly fine. I know, and we are going to prove it. I already scheduled evaluations with 3 independent specialists, renowned neurologists who have no connection to your family. Their results will be irrefutable. What else? They will try to discredit you publicly. They will say you are a difficult, controlling man, that you mistreated your family. They will look for testimonies from disgruntled employees, from anyone who has a complaint against you. I have worked with honesty all my life. That does not matter," August said. "In these battles, the truth is the least important thing. What matters is who tells the best story. And they are going to paint a story where you are the villain and they are the victims." I leaned back on the couch, feeling the weight of the situation. My own children, my own blood, treating me like an enemy. "There is also the issue of Chloe," Vance continued. "She was not here tonight, but make no mistake. She is as involved as Robert, maybe more. Her husband, James, is a lawyer, and one of the good ones. He is going to use every legal trick he knows. What can I do? Counterattack, but smartly. First, we are going to file charges for Robert's embezzlement. Clear evidence, documented. That gives him immediate loss of credibility in any process where he tries to declare you incompetent. And Chloe? With her it is more complicated. She has not stolen directly, but she has been an accomplice. She has facilitated James's access to confidential company information. That is enough to exclude her from the inheritance, but not for criminal proceedings. "I do not want to put my children in jail," I said, and it was the first time my voice broke that night. "I just want them to leave me alone, that they respect what I built, that they understand I am not an object they can dispose of." August put a hand on my shoulder. "William, sometimes a father's love blinds us. But you have to understand something. They already made their decision. They already declared war on you. And in a war, either you fight or they destroy you." He was right. I knew it, but accepting it hurt more than anyone could imagine. The following days were a whirlwind of legal activity. Mr. Vance filed a formal lawsuit against Robert for embezzlement and misappropriation of funds. The board of directors of my company, seeing the evidence, had no choice but to suspend him from all his duties. Robert ceased to be director of operations. He ceased to have access to the accounts. He ceased to be part of my company. Chloe tried to mediate. She called me crying, begging me to reconsider. That Robert had made mistakes, yes, but that he was still my son. That family was the most important thing. If family was the most important thing, I replied, they would not have tried to rob me. They would not have planned to declare me crazy. They would not have come with a sledgehammer to my door at midnight. Dad, please, Chloe, you knew everything. James told you the plans, and you said nothing. You did not warn me. You did not try to stop them. You are as guilty as they are. I hung up the phone, and I stood there looking at the screen, hoping it would ring again, that she would tell me she was sorry, that everything had been a misunderstanding. She did not call back. James, on the other hand, did not waste time. 2 days after the confrontation at my door, he filed a countersuit. He claimed that I was acting irrationally, that I had cut off all communication with my family without justification, that I showed clear signs of cognitive deterioration. He also requested a temporary restraining order on my assets, arguing that I could squander them or give them away in a state of mental confusion. He wanted to freeze my accounts. He wanted a judge to appoint an auditor to manage my finances. Basically, they wanted to turn me into a prisoner of my own money. But they made a mistake I had anticipated. The medical evaluations that Mr. Vance had scheduled took place that same week. 3 neurologists, 3 exhaustive exams, memory tests, logical reasoning, cognitive capacity. The results were overwhelming. Mr. William Miller is in full use of his mental faculties. He shows no signs of dementia, Alzheimer's, or any significant cognitive deterioration for his age. His reasoning and decision-making capacity is completely normal. When those reports reached the court, James's petition fell like a house of cards. But they did not give up. The next move came from the emotional side. Robert called a family meeting. He did not invite me directly. He asked my grandkids to do it. Sam, the oldest at 17, called me one afternoon. "Grandpa," he said with a trembling voice, "Dad says you're angry with him. He says there's a misunderstanding and he just wants to talk to you." My heart broke a little more. "Sam, son, this is not a misunderstanding. But we are family. Mom is crying all the time. She says you do not love her anymore, that you do not love us anymore either." I closed my eyes. Danielle, using the kids as a weapon. How low. "Sam, I love you guys. You, your sister, your cousins. But what is happening between your father and me is something you cannot understand yet. And it is not your fault. None of this is your fault. So are you coming to the meeting?" "No, son, I am not going." He remained silent for a moment. "Dad says if you do not come, it is because you really do not care about the family anymore. Your father is wrong. Grandma Teresa would never have wanted this." That phrase hit me like a hammer. Teresa. My Teresa. The woman who kept this family together. The woman who would have known what to say, how to fix this. Your grandmother would have been very sad. I said finally, "Sad to see what your parents did. Sad to see how they betrayed me. Grandpa, I do not know what happened exactly, but I do know that you have always been good to us, and I trust you." Those words gave me strength. At least someone in this family still trusted me. "Thank you, Sam. That means more than you can imagine." When I hung up, August found me sitting in the study, staring blankly at a photo of Teresa. "Are you okay?" "No," I replied honestly. "I am not okay, but I am going to keep going anyway. That is the only thing we can do." The family meeting took place without me, but not without consequences. It turned out Robert had invited not only the family, but also some key employees of my company, people I had promoted, people I trusted, and in front of all of them, Robert gave a speech. Maurice, my trusted accountant, told me later what happened. "Mr. Miller, it was horrible. Robert stood there and painted a picture of you, as if you were a tyrant. He said you had been an absent father, that you never had time for them, that you always put work before family. He said that now that you are older, you have become paranoid and are destroying everything they built together with you." And did people believe him? Some did. Those who do not know you well. Those who only see a successful young businessman and an older man accusing him of serious things. And you, Maurice, what do you think? The old accountant looked at me with those tired eyes that had seen 30 years of ups and downs in my company. "I think Robert is a liar. I think you built all this with your own hands. while that boy could barely carry a box. And I think if we do not stop him now, he's going to destroy everything you took decades to build. What did he do after the speech? He called for a vote among the main shareholders. He wants to remove you from the chairmanship of the board. I froze. Can he do that? Technically, yes. If he gets the support of the majority of the shareholders, they can remove you as chairman and appoint him in your place. And how many votes does he have? For now, not enough. But he is working on it. He is offering bonuses, better positions, promises of expansion. He is buying loyalties. It was brilliant. I had to admit it. Robert was never good with hard work, but he always knew how to manipulate people. He always knew how to say what they wanted to hear. Maurice, I need you to do something for me. Anything, Mr. Miller. I need a complete audit of all the financial movements of the company in the last 5 years. I want to know exactly how much Robert stole. Down to the last penny. That is going to take time. You have 2 weeks. Maurice nodded and left, and I stayed there, in my empty house, surrounded by memories of a family that no longer existed. Teresa always said that crises bring out the best and worst in people. That in difficult moments is when you see what someone is really made of. She was right. Some employees I had helped for years, whom I had supported in tough times, were now on Robert's side. They preferred to follow the promising young man than the old man who had hired them, but others stood firm. Maurice, of course. He had been with me since the beginning. He knew who I really was, Linda, my personal assistant of 20 years, a woman who knew every detail of my life and my company. When Robert tried to bribe her to give him access to my private files, she sent him to hell and told me everything. Rodney, my logistics chief, a man who started as a driver and whom I promoted until he became one of the pillars of the company. When Robert offered him a better position if he joined him, Rodney replied, "I prefer to sweep floors for Mr. Miller than be a director for you." Those small victories gave me hope. They reminded me that not everything was lost, that there were still people who valued loyalty over money, but they also reminded me of something darker, that this was no longer a family dispute. This had become a corporate war, and in wars there are always casualties. Maurice's audit revealed something even I did not expect. Robert had not just stolen money, he had created an entire network of shell companies. Companies registered in tax havens under the names of strawmen, fake contracts with suppliers that did not exist, inflated invoices, invented commissions. In total, he had diverted almost $1.5 million in 5 years. $1.5 million. When I saw that figure in the report, I felt like I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just the money. It was the betrayal. It was the time. It was the effort. It was everything that amount represented. $1.5 million that I had earned working 18 hours a day. $1.5 million that could have been investments, bonuses for employees, company expansion, $1.5 million that my son had stolen to finance his rich lifestyle without working. "With this, we can sink him," Mr. Vance said when I showed him the report. "This is not just embezzlement. This is organized fraud, money laundering. Robert could go to prison." "I do not want to send him to prison," I replied, although I was no longer sure of that. "I just want him to return what he stole and stay away from me forever. Mr. Miller, with all due respect, that ship has sailed. Robert is not going to negotiate. He is going to fight to the end. And if you do not stop him now, he is going to destroy you." He was right. I knew it. But a part of me still clung to the hope that this could be resolved without reaching the worst. That hope died 2 days later. An envelope arrived at my house. No return address. Inside were photos. Photos of me leaving the house, entering the supermarket, walking in the park. Photos taken from afar, with a telephoto lens, and a handwritten note with handwriting I recognized immediately. Robert's handwriting. "Dad, this can end in 2 ways. Either you give me back control of the company, or I am going to prove that you are so senile you shouldn't be alone on the street. Think about it carefully. He was following me. My own son was watching me as if I were a criminal. I showed the photos to the head of security. This is stalking, he said. We can ask for a restraining order. Do it. But I knew a restraining order was just a piece of paper. If Robert really wanted to hurt me, a piece of paper wasn't going to stop him. That night, August stayed for dinner with me. How are you holding up with all this? He asked me. Honestly, I do not know. There are days when I want to give up. Days when I think maybe it would be easier to give them what they want and disappear. But you don't do it. No, because if I give up, they win. And they don't just win the company or the money. They win the right to say that I was a senile old man who couldn't take care of himself. And I'm not going to give them that. Never. August raised his glass of wine. To dignity. The only thing no one can take from you if you don't let them. We toasted. And in that moment, I made a decision. If Robert wanted war, he was going to get it. But on my terms. The next morning, I called an extraordinary meeting of the company's board of directors. Robert was not invited. Technically, he was still suspended from all his duties. But I knew he was going to find out. And that was exactly what I wanted. The boardroom was full. 12 board members. Maurice with his binders, Mr. Vance with his briefcase, Linda taking notes, and me at the head of the table, as I had been for 40 years. Gentlemen, I began, I have gathered you here because the time has come to make difficult decisions. You all know the situation with my son, Albert. You have seen the accusations. You have heard the versions. Today you are going to know the full truth. Maurice distributed copies of the audit report. 300 pages of evidence. Numbers. Dates. Transfers. Shell companies. Everything documented with surgical precision. I saw the faces of the board members change as they read. Some turned pale. Others clenched their jaws. Some simply shook their heads in disbelief. $1.5 million, I said, letting the figure float in the air. That is what my son stole from this company in 5 years. From the company I founded. From the company that feeds us all. One of the board members, Mr. Gutierrez, raised his hand. Mr. Miller, it is extremely serious. Why didn't you report it sooner? Because he was my son, I answered with brutal honesty. Because I wanted to believe there was an explanation. Because I still had hope that it could be fixed within the family. But that hope died when he came to my house with a sledgehammer at midnight. There was a murmur of surprise. Not everyone knew that detail. The situation's as follows, I continued. Robert is trying to take control of this company. He is offering favors, promising promotions, buying loyalties, and he is doing it with the money he stole. With our money. What do you propose we do? Mrs. Dominguez, the independent counselor, asked. I propose that we vote for his definitive expulsion from the board, that we initiate legal actions to recover what was stolen, and that we shield the company against any hostile takeover attempt. Hostile takeover? There is a foreign company, Global Logistics International, that has been making offers for our company, offers that Robert and my daughter Chloe were seriously considering. Without consulting me, without informing the board, they wanted to sell it and split the profits. The silence in the room was dense as concrete. Do you have proof of that? Gutierrez asked. Maurice pulled out another binder. Emails, preliminary contracts, secret meetings, everything documented. Gentlemen, I said, standing up, this company is my life. I built it from scratch. I raised it when no one believed in me. I sustained it through crises. I made it grow when everyone said it was impossible. And I am not going to allow my own son to destroy it out of greed. The vote was unanimous. Robert Miller was permanently expelled from the board of directors. Legal actions were initiated. Protections against hostile takeovers were implemented. I had won the first real battle of this war, but the war was just beginning. Robert found out about the meeting that same afternoon, and his response was swift. That night, all my company's social media accounts were hacked. Someone posted fake messages saying the company was bankrupt. that there was accounting fraud, that I had been declared mentally incompetent, and that the company was being run by a group of opportunists. Linda worked all night to recover the accounts and delete the messages, but the damage was already done. Several clients called worried. Some suppliers suspended deliveries. The company stock fell 3 points. "It was Robert," said the cybersecurity specialist we hired. "Not directly, but he paid someone to do it. We can trace it, but it will take time." "How much time?" "Weeks, maybe months." We didn't have 2 months. Every day that passed, Robert gained ground. Every day that passed, more people started to doubt me. Then Chloe made her move. She summoned me to a coffee shop downtown, a public, neutral place. She said we needed to talk, that things had gotten out of control, that she could help solve this. I went, with August waiting at a nearby table and with a recorder in my pocket, because I didn't trust anyone anymore. Chloe arrived 15 minutes late. She was wearing sunglasses and her hair was tied back. She looked tired, thinner than I remembered. "Hi, Dad," she said, sitting in front of me. "Chloe, you look good. I am glad to see you are okay." "Is that what you came to tell me? That you are glad to see me okay?" She sighed. "I came to ask you to stop this. Please. You are destroying the family. I am not destroying anything. Your brother did it when he decided to steal from me. You did it when you decided to help him. Dad, Robert made mistakes. I know. But he is still your son. He is still my brother. Are you really going to put him in jail? He took $1.5 million. Those are not mistakes. That is a crime. The money can be returned. With what? With the money he already spent on luxuries? With the condo downtown? With the trips to Europe? With the $150,000 SUVs? Chloe pressed her lips together. There are ways to fix it. James says we can reach an agreement. Robert returns part of the money, you drop the charges, and we all move on. We all move on, I let out a bitter laugh. Chloe, you tried to declare me crazy, tried to take my company away from me. Your husband drafted documents to do it. And now you come here to tell me that we all move on as if nothing had happened. It was James's idea. I didn't want to, but you did nothing to stop it. Her eyes filled with tears. And this time, for the first time, I saw something real in them, something that wasn't manipulation or theater. She was scared. She whispered, afraid that if I opposed Robert, he would leave me out of everything, afraid that James would leave me if I didn't support him, afraid of being left with nothing. And me? Were you not afraid for me? Did you not think about what they were going to do to me? I thought you would be better off, that in a place where they took care of you, where you didn't have to worry about the company. In a nursing home? I interrupted her. Is that what you thought? That I would be better off locked in a nursing home while you split what I built? Tears ran down her cheeks. I am sorry, Dad. I am so sorry. You know what is saddest, Chloe? That maybe you do feel it, but not enough to have done something different, not enough to have been honest with me from the beginning. I stood up. Tell Robert there are going to be no deals. Tell James to prepare his best legal arguments. And tell yourself that you had the chance to do the right thing and you didn't take it. I walked away from that table feeling the weight of each of my 72 years. Chloe stayed there crying in silence, and a part of me, the part that was still a father, wanted to turn around and hug her. But I didn't, because sometimes love is not enough. Sometimes dignity has to come first. The following days were like walking through a minefield. Robert hired his own lawyers, not one or two, a full team from an international firm, people who charged $1,000 an hour and had a reputation for winning impossible cases. They filed a massive countersuit. They accused my company of accounting irregularities. They said I had used corporate funds for personal expenses, that I had given contracts to friends' companies without following proper procedures, that I had run the company as if it were my personal kingdom without accounting to anyone. Some accusations were ridiculous. Others had a grain of twisted truth. Yes, I had hired companies of acquaintances, but because they were the best in their field, and because I personally knew their work. Yes, I had used company money for some expenses, but legitimate expenses, documented, approved by the board. But Robert knew that in the court of public opinion, the truth matters less than the narrative. And he was building a narrative where I was an old despot, clinging to power, incapable of recognizing that it was time to hand over the reins. The media started covering it. First internet portals, then local newspapers, then national news. Prominent businessman faces lawsuit from his own children for alleged fraud. Miller family in legal war for control of transport empire. Children accuse father of manipulation and abuse of power. My name, the name I had built for decades with honest work, was now being dragged through the mud. Linda brought me the press clippings every morning. I read them with a cup of coffee growing cold in my hands. Mr. Miller, she told me, do not read those things. They are only going to hurt you. I need to know what people are saying. I need to know what I am fighting against. But the truth is that every article was a dagger. Every headline was a wound. And some days I wondered if it was worth fighting. Those were the days I looked at Teresa's photo on my desk. What would you do? I asked that image frozen in time. How would you solve this? And although she couldn't answer me, I knew what she would say. Teresa was always stronger than me, wiser, firmer when it was necessary to be. William, she would tell me with that soft but firm voice she had, it is not about winning or losing. It is about being able to look at yourself in the mirror every morning and know you did the right thing. And that was the only thing keeping me standing. But Robert had more tricks up his sleeve. One morning an IRS inspector arrived at my house with a tax audit order. They wanted to review all my tax returns for the last 10 years. It is standard procedure, the inspector said. Someone filed an anonymous complaint suggesting fiscal irregularities. Someone. Robert. Obviously, I gave him all the documentation, every receipt, every invoice, every return, because I had always paid my taxes religiously, down to the last penny. But an audit like that takes time. And in the meantime, the shadow of suspicion remains. Clients get nervous. Suppliers start asking for advance payments. Banks double-check every transaction. Robert knew exactly what he was doing. He didn't need to win that battle. He just needed to create enough chaos to weaken me. And it was working. The company started losing contracts. Clients of years, people with whom I had worked for decades, started looking for other providers. Not because they doubted the quality of our service, but because they didn't want to be associated with a scandal. Rodney, my logistics chief, arrived one afternoon with the worst news. Mr. Miller, we just lost the contract with Northside Mercantile. It was our biggest client. Why? They said they are restructuring their operations. But I spoke to my contact there. The truth is they are worried about this whole legal situation. They don't want to get involved. That contract represented 20% of our annual revenue. Can we survive without it? Yes, but it is going to be tight. And if we lose another big client, we are going to have to lay people off. Lay people off. Families that depended on my company. Parents who used that salary to feed their children. Students who worked part-time to pay for college. All that at risk because of my own son's greed. That night, August found me in the study, staring into the void. Are you considering giving up? He said. It wasn't a question. I am considering how many innocent people are going to suffer for this war. Employees who have nothing to do with this. Families who are going to be left without income. If you give up, do you think Robert is going to take care of them? No. Do you think he's going to run the company better than you? No. Then what is going to happen to all those employees when Robert takes control and sells it to that foreign company? How many are going to lose their jobs when they decide to optimize operations? I didn't answer because I knew the answer. In corporate acquisitions, the first thing they do is cut staff. Eliminate redundancies. Translation, fire people. You are not fighting just for yourself, William. August continued. You are fighting for all of them too, and if there is anyone who can save this company, it is you. He was right, as always. But I need a plan, I said. I cannot keep reacting to what Robert does. I need to take the initiative. What do you have in mind? I leaned on the desk, looking at the documents scattered in front of me. Contracts, financial statements, organizational charts. And then I saw it. The answer had been there all along. I am going to do something I should have done years ago, I said. I am going to protect this company not just from Robert, but from anyone who tries to use my age or my condition as an excuse to take it from me. How? I am going to create a corporate structure where I stop being the only point of control, where there is a strong operating board, where there are clear rules of succession, where no one, not even my children, can take control without first proving they are qualified to do so. August smiled. That is brilliant. It takes away their main argument, that you are an old man clinging to power. Exactly. And at the same time, I protect what I built. If something happens to me, the company goes on. If I become truly incapacitated one day, there is a clear process. But no one can simply steal it because they think they deserve it. Robert is going to go crazy when he finds out. Let him go crazy. I am tired of playing defense. I spent the next 2 weeks working with Mr. Vance and a team of corporate consultants. We restructured the entire company. We created a 7-person operating board. Competent people, loyal people, people who knew the business from the inside. We established clear rules. To be considered for CEO of the company, any candidate had to have at least 10 years of industry experience, a proven track record of success, and the approval of at least 5 of the 7 board members. Robert did not qualify. He wasn't even close to qualifying. We also created an irrevocable trust for the majority shares, a trust where I was the beneficiary as long as I lived, but which would then be distributed according to very specific rules, rules that could not be changed, rules that protected the employees, the clients, and the company itself. And finally, I did something I never thought I would do. I put 30% of the company up for sale, not to Global Logistics International, but to 3 prestigious institutional investors, investment funds with a long-term vision. With that money, I paid off all the company's debts, created a contingency fund, and deposited a substantial amount in a separate account, specifically destined to recover the money Robert stole through legal processes. When everything was ready, I called a press conference. The media that had been crucifying me for weeks suddenly became very interested when I announced a major statement regarding the future of Miller Transport. The press room at the hotel where we made the announcement was packed. Cameras, journalists, some of my employees who wanted to be present. I stood in front of them all with August by my side and gave the most important speech of my life. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, the last few months have been difficult for me and my family. Many things have been said, some true, many false. Today I want to set the record straight. I paused, looking directly at the cameras. My name is William Miller. I am 72 years old, and I am in full possession of my mental faculties, as confirmed by 3 independent medical evaluations which are available to anyone who wants to review them. Some journalists scribbled furiously. I founded Miller Transport 40 years ago with a borrowed truck and a dream. Today it is one of the most important logistics companies in the country, and today I am announcing changes that will ensure it remains so for the next 40 years. I explained the restructuring, the new operating board, the succession rules, the partial sale to institutional investors. These changes prove that I am not clinging to power. I am clinging to doing things right, to protecting the jobs of 800 families that depend on this company, to maintaining the quality and service that has characterized us. Then came the hard part. I also want to talk about my son, Robert Miller. The murmur in the room intensified. Robert worked at this company for several years, and during that time, he diverted approximately $1.5 million in corporate funds for personal use. I have complete evidence of this, which has been presented to the corresponding authorities. Camera flashes, shouted questions, chaos. I raised a hand to ask for silence. I know that for many this is a family scandal. For me, it is a personal tragedy. But it is also a question of justice, and in this company justice applies equally to everyone, including my family. "Mr. Miller," shouted a journalist, "are you saying you are going to put your own son in jail?" "I am saying that the consequences of a person's actions do not disappear because that person is my son. I am saying that respect, honesty, and hard work have to mean something, and that when those values are betrayed, there is a price to pay." I left that conference feeling a huge weight lift off my shoulders. There were no more secrets, no more shadows. Everything was on the table. Robert would now have to fight not in the dark, but in the light of day, and I was ready for that fight. The reaction was immediate. That same night, Robert gave his own press conference. Improvised, disorganized, desperate. He stood in front of the cameras with Danielle by his side, and with a lawyer who looked uncomfortable. I watched it live from my house. August, Maurice, and Mr. Vance were with me. None of us said anything while Robert spoke. We just watched. "My father's sick," Robert said with a trembling voice, faking emotion, not physically but mentally. "My mother's death changed him, made him paranoid, distrustful. He is no longer the man he was, and the people surrounding him now, those so-called advisors, are just using him for their own ends." He made a dramatic pause. "I never stole anything. Those 1.5 million he mentions are legitimate investments I made on behalf of the company, investments he authorized. But now in his confusion, he no longer remembers, or the people around him convinced him it didn't happen. He was good. I had to admit it. If I didn't have the proof, if I didn't have the emails, the transfers, the testimonies of Maurice and other employees, if it was just my word against his, maybe people would believe him. But I had the proof. Why did I go to his house that night?" Robert continued. "Because I was desperate. Because my father wasn't answering my calls. Because I was worried he was alone with people who don't have his best interests in mind. Yes, I took a tool, because I thought something bad had happened to him. Because I am his son and I love him." Danielle was crying by his side. Perfect soap opera tears. "Today my father publicly accused me of being a thief, exposed me before the whole country, destroyed my reputation, and did so based on manipulated information by people who want to keep his company." Robert looked directly at the camera. "Dad, if you're watching this, please, seek help, seek treatment. Don't let these people keep you away from your family. We are still here. We still love you. But you need help." The conference ended. Journalists shouted questions. Robert left without answering any. I turned off the TV. "He is good," said August. "Very good. He twisted everything to make himself the victim." "But he has no proof," replied Mr. Vance. "He only has words. We have documents." "In the court of law, maybe," I said. "But in the court of public opinion, words can be more powerful than documents. People want to believe in dramatic stories, in the worried son, in the confused father." "So, what do we do?" Maurice asked. "Nothing," I replied. "We let the authorities do their work. We let the numbers speak for themselves, and we continue with the restructuring of the company." But inside, I felt like I was fighting a battle on too many fronts. The legal battle, the media battle, the emotional battle of seeing my son destroy his own life just to destroy mine, and I wondered how much more I could take. The following days were a whirlwind. Social media exploded with divided opinions. Some supported me, saying I was doing the right thing defending my company. Others attacked me, saying I was a terrible father, prioritizing money over family. There were protesters outside my offices. Not many, maybe 20 or 30, but enough for the cameras to film them. They carried signs. "Family comes first. Mr. Miller, forgive your son. Money is not more important than blood." Robert had organized them, obviously, but it worked. The images appeared on all the news shows. Inside the company, morale was on the floor. Employees didn't know what to believe. Some thought I was a hero defending what I built. Others thought I was being too hard on Robert. Linda organized a general meeting. All employees, 800 people gathered in the main warehouse. I stood in front of them with a microphone in my hand. I know it has been a difficult few days, I began. I know there is uncertainty. I know some of you are worried about your jobs, and I want to be completely honest with you. I paused, looking at those faces I knew. People who had worked with me 10, 20, 30 years. People whose children I had been godfather to. People who had been at Teresa's funeral. This company is going through a crisis, not a financial crisis. Our numbers are solid. We have contracts, we have clients, but we are in a crisis of confidence. And that crisis was caused by mistakes that were made. Serious mistakes. Someone in the back shouted, "Mr. Miller, don't leave us." Others joined the shout. A spontaneous applause began to spread through the warehouse. I felt a lump in my throat. "I am not going to leave you," I said when the applause died down. "But I need you to trust me. I need you to understand that the decisions I am taking are not to hurt you. They are to protect you. To protect this company that feeds us all." "And Mr. Robert," someone asked, "is it true what they say?" "What I say is true," I replied. Robert took money that did not belong to him. Money that belonged to you, too. Every dollar he stole was a dollar less for bonuses, for improvements, for expansion that could have meant more jobs. There were murmurs, but Robert is my son, and part of me will always love him. Part of me will always wish things had been different. But love does not mean allowing someone to destroy you. Love also means setting boundaries. It means saying, "This is wrong, and there have to be consequences." A woman in the front row, Mrs. Higgins, who had worked in cleaning for 25 years, raised her hand. "Mr. Miller, my son made mistakes when he was young. He was in jail for 2 years, but when he got out, I gave him another chance. And now he is a good man. Can't you give Mr. Robert another chance?" The question hit me like a punch. "Mrs. Higgins," I said softly, "I would give Robert another chance. But for that, he would have to admit he did something wrong. He would have to return what he took. He would have to ask for forgiveness, and not just from me. From all of you, because he stole from all of you, too." "And if he does?" she asked. "If he admits and asks for forgiveness?" "Then we will talk," I replied. "But until that moment, the legal consequences have to run their course." The meeting ended with applause, not unanimous, but loud enough to give me hope. I left that warehouse feeling that maybe, just maybe, things could turn out okay. But that night, I received a call that changed everything. It was from Sam, my grandson. "Grandpa," he said with a broken voice, "I need to talk to you." "Sure, son, what is wrong?" "It is about Dad. He is very bad." My blood ran cold. "Bad how?" "Yesterday I found him drinking in his office at 10 in the morning, and he was crying. I had never seen him cry, and he says weird things." "What kind of things?" "He says if he loses the trial, he is going to lose everything, that they are going to take our house, that we are going to end up on the street." Mom is hysterical. My sister won't stop crying, and I don't know what to do. My heart broke. Not for Robert, but for those kids who weren't to blame for anything. "Sam, listen to me closely. Whatever happens with your father, you and your sister are going to be fine. I give you my word. No one is going to take your house. No one is going to leave you on the street. You promise?" "I promise." He stayed silent for a moment. "Grandpa, can I ask you something?" "Whatever you want. Did Dad really do what you say?" The question I had been avoiding. "Yes, Sam, he did. Why? Why would he do something like that?" "I don't know, son. Sometimes the people we love make decisions we don't understand, decisions that hurt us, and we have to learn to live with that." "Do you still love him?" "Dad?" "Yes," I replied, and it was the most painful truth I had spoken. "I love him, but that doesn't mean I can ignore what he did." "I love him too," said Sam, "but I am angry with him, very angry." "It is okay to be angry. It is normal. Is it going to get fixed someday?" Are you guys going to talk again? I don't know, Sam. I hope so, but that depends on your father, on the decisions he makes now. After hanging up, I stared at the phone for a long time. August entered the study. Are you okay? No, I replied. I am not okay, but I'm going to keep going anyway. 3 days later, the news I was waiting for arrived. The prosecutor's office had accepted the case. The evidence I presented was enough to proceed with formal charges against Robert for fraud and embezzlement. They were going to issue an arrest warrant. When Mr. Vance told me, I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel satisfaction. I just felt a deep emptiness. When? I asked. Tomorrow or the day after, depends on judicial procedures. And then? Then he will have to appear before a judge. They can give him bail, or they can order preventive detention. Depends if the judge considers there is a flight risk in the shell companies, the overseas accounts. That could complicate things. If the judge thinks he has hidden assets and resources to flee the country, he is not going to give him bail. I closed my eyes. I do not want him to go to jail, I said. I want him to return the money. I want him to admit what he did. I want him to learn the lesson, but I do not want to see him locked up. Mr. Miller, that no longer depends on you. The legal process has already begun. Now it is the state proceeding. He was right. I had set this in motion, and now it was like a rock rolling down a mountain. I couldn't stop it anymore, even if I wanted to. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in the study looking at old photos. Robert as a child, in his school uniform, Robert at his college graduation, Robert on his wedding day, smiling as if he had the world in his hands. At what moment did everything go wrong? Was it my fault? Did I work so much I didn't give him enough attention? Did I give him too much without making him earn it? Was it Teresa's death that broke the balance? I had no answers, only questions that tormented me in the dark. At 3 a.m, my phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. Hello, Dad. It was Robert. Robert, I know they are coming for me tomorrow. I know what you did. His voice sounded strange, calm, too calm. Robert, if you hand over the money, if you admit what you did, we can talk to the prosecutor's office. We can negotiate. I am not going to admit anything because I did nothing wrong. Robert, please, think about your children. Think about Sam and your daughter. They need you to be strong now, to do the right thing. The right thing? He let out a bitter laugh. Like you? Destroying your own family for money? It is not for money. It was never for money. Then why? For pride? Because you can't stand someone disobeying you? Because you need to prove you are still the all-powerful patriarch? It is out of respect, Robert. Out of dignity. Out of principles. Things I thought I had taught you. The only thing you taught me was that work is more important than everything. That money is worth more than people. That being successful means sacrificing everything else. That is not true, is it? How many of my birthdays did you miss? How many soccer games? How many nights did I go to bed without you having come home? I was working to give you a better life. We didn't want a better life. We wanted a father. The words went through me like knives. Robert, if that is how you felt, if you had those resentments, we could have talked. We could have solved it. But stealing, planning to take my company, that is not the answer. It doesn't matter anymore, he said. You already made your decision and I made mine. What does that mean? It means you are going to have to live with the consequences of what you did, just as I am going to live with the consequences of what I did. Robert, don't do anything stupid. He hung up. I tried calling him back. He didn't answer. I dialed Danielle. She didn't answer. I dialed Chloe. Neither. Panic started taking over me. Robert's words, his tone. You are going to have to live with the consequences. I called Mr. Vance. I need you to send someone to Robert's house. Now. Immediately. What happened? I just spoke to him. He said strange things. I am worried he is going to do something drastic. Vance didn't argue. He made the necessary calls. An hour later, he called me back. Mr. Miller, Robert is not at his house. His wife says he left 2 hours ago and hasn't returned. He is not answering the phone. My God. We already alerted the authorities. If he appears somewhere, they are going to let us know. I spent the rest of the night awake, pacing the house like a caged animal. Every minute seemed like an eternity. Every time my phone rang, my heart skipped a beat. At 7 in the morning, I finally received the call. It was Chloe. "Dad," she said, and she was crying. "Robert is in the hospital." My blood froze. What happened? They found him in his car, in a parking lot. He had taken pills, a lot of pills. The world stopped. Is he alive? They pumped his stomach. He's going to be fine, physically. But Dad, he left a note. What did it say? Chloe was sobbing so hard she could barely speak. It said he couldn't take it anymore, that the shame was too much, that he preferred this to going to jail, and that he hoped you could live with what you had done. My legs failed me. I let myself fall into a chair. Where is he? At Angel's Hospital. But Dad, he doesn't want to see you. They told him you were on your way, and he got very upset. The doctors say you can't go in. I have to see him. You can't. Not now. Please. Just give us time. She hung up. And I stayed there in my study, surrounded by everything I had built, everything I had fought to protect. And I asked myself if it was worth it. The following days were the darkest of my life. Robert survived. Physically, he was recovering, but mentally, emotionally, he was shattered. The news leaked to the media. Businessman's son attempts to take his own life after fraud accusations. The headlines were brutal, and the opinions on social media worse. Mr. Miller drove his son to the brink of death for money. This is what happens when pride is more important than family. A father who prefers to see his son dead than admit he is wrong. I stopped reading. I stopped watching the news. I locked myself in my house and didn't want to see anyone. August had to practically force his way in. "William, this is not your fault." No, I put this in motion. I filed the charges. I gave the press conferences. Robert tried to do that because he didn't want to face the consequences of his own acts. You didn't put the money in those accounts. You didn't create the shell companies. You didn't steal $1.5 million. He did. But I am his father. I should have found another way. What other way? Let him keep stealing? Let him take everything from you? Let him destroy the company and leave 800 families without jobs? Would that have been the right answer? I didn't answer because I didn't know the answer. "William, look at me," said August. "I have known you for 50 years. I know what kind of man you are, and I know this is killing you inside. But you have to understand something. You cannot save someone who doesn't want to be saved. You cannot protect someone from the consequences of their own decisions. He is my son. I know, and that is why it hurts so much. But continuing to blame yourself is not going to help him. The only thing it is going to do is destroy you, too." He was right, as always, but knowing he was right didn't make it hurt less. A week later, Robert was discharged from the hospital. He didn't go home. He went directly to present himself to the authorities with his team of lawyers. The judge, considering the recent attempt and the testimony of psychologists, granted him bail. But with strict conditions, he couldn't leave the country. He had to report every week to the court, and he had to undergo psychological treatment. The legal process would continue. But at least Robert wouldn't be in preventive detention. Chloe came to see me 2 days later. She arrived at my house at sunset. She looked tired, haggard, as if she had aged 10 years in 2 weeks. "Can I come in?" she asked from the door. Of course, we sat in the living room, the same place where we had had so many family dinners, so many celebrations, so many happy moments that now seemed to belong to another life. "How is Robert?" I asked. "Alive. That is the best I can say. The doctors say he is stable. But Dad, he is broken, completely broken. I am sorry. I really am sorry. I know," she said, "and I think he knows it too, although he will never admit it." We remained silent for a moment. "I came to tell you something," she said finally. Something I should have told you a long time ago. Tell me. You are right. About everything. Robert stole that money, and I knew it. James told me it was just resource optimization, that it was normal in business. But I knew it was wrong, and I said nothing. Her eyes filled with tears, and when they planned the mental incapacity thing, I knew it too. And I didn't say anything either, because I was afraid. Afraid of losing my share of the inheritance. Afraid that James would get mad at me. Afraid of being left with nothing. Chloe. But what happened with Robert? That opened my eyes. I saw my brother in that hospital bed, with tubes everywhere. And I realized that money doesn't matter. The company doesn't matter. None of that matters if we lose what is really important. And what is really important? Family. True family. Not the family that pretends everything is fine while inside it is rotting, but the family that can be honest, that can make mistakes and admit them, that can get hurt and still find a way to heal. She wiped her tears. Dad, Robert has to face the consequences of what he did. I understand that. But he is my brother, and you are my father, and I don't want to lose either of you. You are not going to lose me, Chloe. But will we be able to be a family again one day? The question I had been asking myself for weeks. I don't know, I replied honestly. I don't know if we can go back to being what we were. But maybe we can be something new. Something different. Something more honest. Chloe nodded. James and I are getting divorced, she said suddenly. What? I can't go on with him. Not after all this. Not after seeing how he manipulated everything. How he used us all for his own benefit. Chloe, you don't have to make those decisions now. Yes, I have to take them. Because if I have learned something from all this, it is that I can no longer let fear guide my life. I can no longer keep quiet when I know something is wrong. I approached her and hugged her. For the first time in months, I hugged my daughter. And she cried on my shoulder like when she was a little girl. I am sorry, Dad. I am so sorry for everything that happened. I am sorry too, daughter. Me too. The following weeks brought changes. Chloe started her divorce process. James, surprisingly, didn't fight. Maybe because he knew his reputation was already too damaged. Maybe because it simply didn't suit him anymore. Robert began his psychological treatment. His lawyer negotiated with the prosecutor's office. Eventually, they reached an agreement. Robert would return the stolen money and scheduled payments, work in community service, and accept a sentence of probation. He wouldn't go to prison, but he would have a criminal record, and he would be permanently excluded from any position in my company. We didn't speak again. Neither he nor I were ready, but at least there was no longer that open war. There was something resembling a cold truce. The company stabilized. The contracts we had lost, some returned when they saw the restructuring was serious. Others didn't return, but we found new clients. Linda, Maurice, Rodney, and the rest of the team stood firm. And little by little, morale started to recover. Sam, my grandson, started visiting me on Sundays. At first it was awkward. We didn't know what to talk about, but eventually we found our rhythm. Grandpa, he told me one day, do you think Dad and you are going to talk again someday? I hope so, Sam, but it is going to take time, a lot of time. Would you teach me about the business? He asked suddenly. When I am older, I want to work at the company, but really work, like you did. I felt a lump in my throat. Are you sure? After everything that happened, because of that very reason, I want to prove that our family can do things right, that we can be honest, that we can earn things on our own merit. I looked at him and saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. Hope. Then I am going to teach you everything I know, but you are going to start from the bottom, like I started. Sounds perfect to me. Today, 6 months after all that, I sat in my study with a cup of coffee. The sun was coming in through the window. Outside, the garden was full of flowers Teresa had planted years ago and that I had continued tending. August stopped by to visit me. How do you feel? He asked. Tired, I replied, but at peace. At peace? Yes, because I did what I had to do. It wasn't easy, it wasn't perfect, and it didn't end how I would have wanted, but it was the right thing. No regrets? I thought about it for a moment. Some. I wish I had talked more with Robert when he was young. I wish I had spent more time with my children. I wish Teresa were here to help me navigate all this. But I do not regret defending my principles. I do not regret protecting my dignity. August nodded. Teresa would be proud of you. You think? I know. She always said that the most important thing about a man is not what he has, but who he is when everything else collapses. I smiled. She was always wiser than me. A few weeks later, I received a letter. It was from Robert. Handwritten. 3 pages. It didn't say, I am sorry. It didn't ask for forgiveness. It didn't admit guilt. But it did say this. Dad, I don't know if someday we will be able to talk again. I don't know if someday you will be able to forgive me, or if I will be able to forgive you. But I want you to know that I am working on myself. I am going to therapy. I am trying to understand why I did what I did, and I am trying to be better. Not for you, not for anyone else, but for me, and for my children, because I don't want them to grow up with a broken father. Robert. I folded the letter and put it in my desk drawer next to the photos of when he was a boy, next to the memories of better times. It wasn't a happy ending. It wasn't the hug and reconciliation one sees in movies, but it was a beginning, a small step toward something that maybe someday could look like healing. Now, when I look back, I understand some things. I understand that respect is not inherited, it is earned, and it is maintained with actions, not with words. I understand that family love does not mean allowing them to destroy you. It means setting boundaries. It means defending what is right, even when it hurts. I understand that old age does not turn you into a disposable object. It does not take away your right to dignity. It does not take away your voice. And I understand that the hardest battles in life are not against external enemies. They are against the people we love when their actions force us to choose between them and ourselves. There are nights when I still ask myself if I did the right thing, if I was too hard, if I should have given in, if I should have forgiven faster. But then I remember that night, the pounding on my door at midnight, the sledgehammer, the screams, the threat, and I remember that I didn't start this war. I just defended myself. And that, at the end of the day, is the only thing that matters. To you who have listened to my story until the end, I want to tell you something. Maybe you are young and you think this is never going to change you. That love is enough. I hope you're right. I hope you never find yourself in the situation I found myself in. But if someday you find yourself there, if someday the people you love betray you, if someday you have to choose between your dignity and keeping the peace, choose your dignity. Because in the end, when everything else collapses, when the money goes and people abandon you, the only thing you have left is your capacity to look at yourself in the mirror and recognize the person you see. And that person deserves respect. Your respect. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how weak others see you. It doesn't matter if they are your family or your friends or anyone. Your dignity is not negotiable. Your voice matters. Your life matters. And if you have to fight for that, then fight. Fight with honor. Fight with justice. But fight. Because giving up is not love. Giving up is betraying yourself. And that is something we must never do. This is my story. The story of an old man who refused to be invisible, who refused to be discarded, who refused to stay silent when his own blood tried to bury him alive. It is not a perfect story. It does not have a fairy tale ending, but it is real, it is honest, and it is mine. My name is William Miller. I am 72 years old. I built an empire from scratch. I defended it from my own children. And I am still here, still standing, still with dignity, And that, my friends, is the only thing that really matters. Thank you for listening. God bless you. And remember, never, never, never let anyone take away your dignity, because it is the only thing that really belongs to you.